how many days, weeks, years does it take you to write one of your books?
I usually can do it in about a month, sometimes less. I can write anywhere, when I'm really generating and really flying, I can write anywhere between 5 and 10,000 words a day. And the books are usually between 100,000 and 110,000 when I turn them in. Sometimes they are 128,000, and that's a big problem.
Okay, guys, I am here with Cara Bastone. She is the author of my new favorite book, Promise Me Sunshine, along with a bunch of others. And this has been such a cool experience for me because I read this book and I always have a lot of questions for the author, I think, by nature of what I do. But this was one where I had more than usual, and I cannot believe I get to ask them today. So, Cara, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
I am so happy to have you here. And I'm just going to start right off the bat with, how do you feel about the feedback that Promise Me Sunshine has received? It's a #1 USA Today bestseller. Not only that, but like Bookstagram, I don't think was as big of a thing, maybe with previous books that you've written. And I actually discovered it that way. The only thing I ever see in my Discover Me feed is books now because Instagram has figured me out. So I'm constantly pushed what I should read next. These are my favorite books of 2025 so far. Promise Me Sunshine was on every list to the point that I couldn't not read it. I mean, I was going to read it no matter what. It was just a question of when. First of all, how does that feel? And when you were writing it, did you sort of know that this might happen?
Oh, no, definitely. Did not realize that this would happen. I'll say it's definitely not a #1 USA Today bestseller. I think it was like number 142 or something like that.
USA Today bestseller. Sorry, it's a USA Today bestseller. It's #1 to me. That's
I don't want to be out here seeming like I'm pretending, but
well, no, you're not at all. But more importantly than USA Today, Cara, is the fact that you are #1 to so many people who've read this book, and on so many people's list, this is the best. I mean, that's the feedback that I see in all the reviews. This is the best book I read in 2025, and I thought, well, I have to know. I mean, I could have not even liked the premise, and I would have felt like I had to read it. So,
right.
what is that like to read that about something you wrote?
It was extremely humbling. I mean, the reasons that people connect to this book are in large part because grief comes for us all. It's pretty universal. And yeah, I'm very humbled that people are saying I'm connecting with this book it always makes me kind of sad because I understand that what they're saying is I've been through this. And I look at my DMs and I am getting very, very human messages from people. I am getting their personal stories. I am getting people at really hard moments in their lives are coming to me to talk. And that has been, yes, extremely humbling. It's opened my eyes, I think, to understand even better what people turn to romance for. I certainly have always turned to romance for these reasons, to get through hard times. In times of grief, in hard times, in boring times, in times I wish were just a little bit more fun. Romance is an everyday thing for me, but it has certainly been in the worst moments of my life too, there with me. And it's been amazing to see people turn to this book for those same reasons. What you mentioned, like this was a bigger response than with other books I've written. It was pretty shocking. I was not prepared for that. The advanced reader copies had been getting a lot of really, I would say a small number of really devoted fans, which is amazing. It always makes me feel so good. That was pretty similar to Ready or Not, I would say, even though there was more, and that made sense to me. It was kind of like it's my second trade paperback. It made sense that there'd be some more. But then release day, I was like, oh wow, this is a different can of worms. And to be honest, I have only just now started looking at tags on Instagram because it was overwhelming. I didn't know how to hold that. I still don't know how to say thank you to people and have them hear it and have them believe me that it's just like the great honor of my career is when I go online and people are making these complicated, gorgeous edits that take hours and hours and hours. They're writing these mini essays or full on essays about the book it's like, not only did they read the book, then they're creating something based on it that it blows my mind. It's unbelievable. And I'm only just now, I think, kind of out of the shock phase and into the like, okay, absorb it and thank people. So
This is really happening.
it's really happening. And now I'm on it's like the opposite of an apology tour. I'm on my thank you very much tour now.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, even reading your acknowledgments at the end, you come right out and say, this is like reading a 100,000 word conversation that I'm having with myself. And I'm just so thankful to you, the reader. And you are such an approachable person. That's very obvious. And I think people feel like they can connect with you. And that was why I had to ask, I mean, what does that feel like? Because I can imagine that the feelings you have about getting all this feedback are probably also really relatable. And I have to say, I just love this for you. I absolutely love it for you.
Thank you.
And I think it's amazing. You do write this absolutely visceral story about grief. And I love that you just talked about the reasons why you read romance. And I was like, wait, we have to get into that for a second because romance is having a revival right now. Mm-hmm. And you talk about reading your grandmother's Harlequin romance novels when you were a teenager. And my mom calls them, a lot of people call them bodice rippers, which is really funny. She always laughs about how like I'm reading modern day bodice rippers.
Right.
But it really does. I think we're in very interesting times right now, no matter where you stand. And I think that has a lot to do with why people have rediscovered romance. And I think it does serve the purpose that you described. But this book also has this extremely palpable theme of very, very real grief. And as I was reading it, I was thinking about the time where I got my heart completely destroyed in a relationship. And I also felt like I never wanted to go home. So the character Lenny sleeps on the Staten Island ferry while it goes back and forth all night because she can't go back to the apartment that she shared with a friend of hers who died. And it's just visceral. And if you've ever had that happen to you before, you can feel it in your bones. And I'm reading it and I'm thinking, has the author been through something? How does she know that this is what it's like? Have you had these experiences yourself, or you just were able to imagine them?
No, I've been through grief in many different stages of grief at once because, I've lost more than one person. For me, the reason I wanted to write about grief was because there are things I don't understand about it. And this is how I better understand my experiences is through writing. And sometimes that's through journaling. Sometimes that's through poetry or essay, but more and more it's through novel writing. When I was very first starting out in romance, I think I just was like, I wonder if I can make readers swoon. That was kind of the idea. And then it felt like I had like unlocked that level. It was like, okay, I know how to do that. And then it was like, I wonder if I could bring more like real everyday problems into these books and make them romantic and interesting. And then it was like, okay, I did that. And then it was like, I wonder if I could bring in enormous existential questions that I have about how the universe works and make those romantic. And I think that's kind of like the level that I'm on right now is what the characters are grappling with in any book that you're going to read by me, especially the more recent ones, are things that I grapple with. And most of the realizations that come in the books are hard-won realizations that I came by and then wanted to include in a book, or through writing the book, I was able to make those realizations for the characters and about my own life too. So hopefully that makes it not feel like greeting card canned. You know what I mean?
Yes, totally. Or like completely unrealistic. Like one of the things that I loved was that I noticed immediately that you didn't present us with two characters who were abnormally attractive in like really funny ways, like almost cartoonish. And that we really fell in love with who they were. And that was what made them attractive. I think Miles, you talked a little bit more about Miles and his appearance, which makes sense because it's a romance. But but Lenny, it was like, we kind of got to fall in love with her for who she was. And she was all of us, I think, at different stages of our lives. And on your website, you talk about how you write ordinary people falling in love. And I was like, oh, I love that. I mean, it wasn't one of these books. My friend just read a book that I've been telling her to read for like 2 years. And she called me like furious because she's like, this is so annoying. I mean, this love story would never have worked out in real life. This guy was completely unavailable. And I guess I read it a few years ago and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know if I would like that book as much now, but it had none of that. This book, Promise Me Sunshine, had none of that. It was very real. If you've ever really loved someone before, you could feel this story and it was real. And that was what made it so beautiful, was that it wasn't, this crazy, fantastical story. It was something that anyone could experience. So I'm dying to know who the inspiration. I've never read about a character like Miles. Miles is the male main character. Was there an inspiration for Miles in your life, or did you just come up with him all on your own?
Oh, well, I will say that, the book is dedicated to my husband for a reason. The dedication says, and for John, who carried me on his back, because I look at the last 5 years of my life and I genuinely don't know where I'd be without him. He's the sort of person that, very Miles, like he'll make sure I'm eating, things like that. But he's also like, we're moms, you get it. Like, you're grieving. You don't have time to necessarily like stop and address it. You just have to like keep going. And he would come in and like take the dishes out of my hands and be like, stop washing dishes and go to the room and close the door. Like, you don't need to parent right now. Like, just take, do your thing. And that was what worked for me. But I think that Miles is his own person. He's probably more me than he is anybody else. But
wow, that's so interesting.
They're both me for sure.
Yeah.
And I've been that person in different roles of my life too. But I definitely have a type, and that is like a pushy, persistent caretaker.
Yes, I love that.
How all of my male leads
end up. So persistent. He was so persistent. Yeah.
And I think not scared off by like the opposite of the meme of like, calm down, like you need to calm down because you're having feelings. It's like the opposite of that, like not scared by big feelings from the person he's in love with, and like understands how to manage them, when to argue back, when to push, when to capitulate. Like, I'm just describing a high EQ. I don't think I'm answering your question. My husband is in there.
You are answering my question. It's
my
really,
husband is in there a little
you
bit.
And your husband, like pieces of you, it sounds like.
Yeah. But also like family members too. My favorite thing about that relationship is that it is very romantic, but that's not the primary note that's there, at least not at the beginning. It's almost familial. That sounds gross because it's a romance. It's not familial, but it's like he, I think, has feelings for her very early on, and that is so not her problem. He's like handling that part of himself by himself, and he is taking care of her in a way that is almost like a family or friend could. And so I was able to pull a lot of different from a lot of different roles of different people in my life who have helped me through hard times, and vice versa.
Well, what I love that there's part of you in each of the characters, because what I guessed, and I'm going to get the answer now, is Lenny is such a vulnerable character. And I love reading vulnerable female characters, because I think when I was the age that I was, when I was dating, etc., I had a very hard time being vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And I love reading about women who were just completely comfortable with themselves and saying there were always exclamation points after everything she said. She's super forward. She says exactly what's on her mind. Is that you too? I'm like, is this the author? Where did she get that from? She's so honest, and I love that about her.
Oh, I love that. That's your take on her. Yeah, that's me. I'm more shy than she is, for sure.
When she says, "Come on and do me already." Yeah. Like that was like she's just in this really intense situation where, Miles has not kissed her yet and she wants him to. And she's like, what are you doing? And I love her honesty, and I love her exclamation points, especially. I think they're fantastic.
Oh, I love that. I think that she equally is not scared of him. He's not scared of her and her big grief, her big emotions, and she's not scared of him being grumpy at all. I think, humor is her main tool. That's definitely mine. I don't know if it was having kids or if it's, now that I'm a certain age or whatever, but a New Yorker. So I think there are a lot of these things. I do think that there is a candor that I have that I can bring, even while being kind of shy and, socialized as a woman, all that. But it was very easy to write Lenny. She was right there for me. I didn't always know what she was going to say, but I didn't ever worry there was never any time I would like type out a sentence and I'd be like, oh, Lenny wouldn't say that. It was just like anything she was going to say was like right there. It was just
Right
perfectly right there. Yeah. So she must be me too in some ways.
I guess that when I was reading, she was just such a unique, such a lovable character. You have written what a lot of people describe as a slow burn romance. So the reader gets to wait a long time for these two to get together. And what's funny is that I love reading slow burn romances, but when I read that something is one, I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to wait. You made this wait so worth the while of the reader. Oh my God. It was like, we're almost there and then we're not. But it was amazing. I mean, it was like perfect. I wouldn't have had it any other way. And this is what I find myself wanting to ask you and what I find myself wanting to ask authors all the time. How do you write spice? Do you go to a class that teaches you how to write the scene where the couple finally gets together? Or is this just something that comes to you? How do you write these scenes?
Do you mean by spice, do you mean like the romantic tension or do you mean like the actual
romantic tension,
scenes?
but then the actual sex is what I'm asking about. So, and some would say this wasn't a super spicy, like this novel, this was not an Elsie Silver novel. Like we're not reading like there was it was just a beautiful love scene that we waited for like 320 pages and it was worth every minute. And I'm like, how do you write this interaction between two people? Whatever you call it.
Okay, so I'll answer the sex scene part of it first.
Yeah.
First of all, I've read a lot of them, so that it's always easier to write something when you've read a lot of them.
Sure.
Yeah. For me, it's very important to me that there is character development within the scene and that it's like a relationship strengthening event. I love writing dialogue in sex scenes and I love writing communication in sex scenes. Okay, so gosh, I don't know how long you've been reading romance, but I would say like somewhere around 2010. There's going to be experts that know this way better than I that are listening, but somewhere around 2010, you started seeing conversations in romantic sex scenes about consent and condom wearing and stuff like that. Like we were veering away from the kind of more bodice rippery. It's all cloud of whatever.
Always a condom or a question about birth control now in every single book that I read. Yes. Yeah.
So my interest in that is, I like to write, first of all, how people actually do it. Which I think is generally more coded. I don't have a graph. I don't know what's in the median or what's the average or whatever, but I assume that I'd like to offer people lots of different viewpoints on how to enter the idea of consent and birth control and body autonomy within a sex scene, how for that can be sexy and coded while being clear, especially the first time you have sex with someone. All of these things are, just like extremely interesting to me. So, okay, something I've learned about sex scenes. I don't know if you read my previous book, Ready or Not.
I'm in the middle of it.
Okay. Oh, crap. Can I say this?
Say it. Just fine. Okay. It's okay. Go for it.
Okay. It's minor spoiler. She does give birth in the book.
Yeah. Okay.
Later, I realized that the same part of my brain that I use to write sex scenes I used to write the birth scene. It's like a similar kind of waterfall of language. It is, she's kind of in and out of an astral plane. Some things are very clear, some things are not. It's a very specific style of writing that has to do with like choreography, anatomy, realizations, and just joy too. Huge emotion and joy. And when I'm editing the sex scenes, I'm shy about it. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I wrote this. I can't believe this is going to be on a shelf with my name on it. And like my mom is going to read it.
My mom is going to read it. That's what I come around to every time. I'm like, does your mom read this? Does she skip this part? What does that look like? Are your kids going to read it one day?
If she skips the part, she doesn't tell me. And that's fine. I certainly have not asked. I do remember, so when my very first book, romance book that came out was with Harlequin, and my whole family was so excited. All of my family read it, including my brothers. And my brother, who's closest to me in age, called me after he finished it. And he was like, this man is a machine.
Oh my God. No, I have to read this book. I did not know you'd written a Harlequin. That's amazing. That's incredible. I would have never known that or guessed that. That's fantastic. Oh my gosh. Yes. And I believe that. He probably was.
Yeah.
He probably was a machine in order for Harlequin to have accepted him. Yes, that's amazing. I know. I'm like, well, how? Because even like I read a book recently by an author that I really like, but it's sort of known to be like not the fan favorite, but I'd read all of her other books. So I thought, okay, I'm going to read this one. And I did. And it was the first time I had ever read a book where I felt zero chemistry between the two main characters. And when they got together, it was like robotic to read about. I was like, there's nothing happening for me here. Like, this is awkward. So there's obviously something to really bringing characters together in that way and making it feel real for whoever's reading about it. And I think being able to write that way and really like make it come alive. I mean, the connection between Miles and Lenny was just like jumping off of the page, and it was worth every second that the reader waited for it. And I'm like, every time I read those scenes, I'm like, how do authors do this? How do they bring you into this in this way? Because it's not just something you can just do. You also have to have a certain amount of time. Obviously, they have to have a connection. I think in order for it to be like really meaningful. And I thought that this was just like exquisitely done. I really did when I was reading it.
I will say that a lot of that credit is due to my editor as well. I certainly present a certain roadmap for them. And then she goes through, especially with this book, we both understood that the slow burn was going to have to be longer with this book because, I mean, can you imagine Lenny having sex at the beginning of this book? Like she is like too hurt. Yeah.
Completely destroyed. Yeah. It
would have if they had moved too quickly, it would have hurt her, and I think that Miles does know that. So, but my editor is like balancing. She's like, we want to be fair to the reader. There's no, if the carrot on the string is too far away, they're going to stop running toward the carrot. So, crumbs, where do we put the crumbs? And she did help me like move certain scenes around so that there would be a little more romantic attention here so that we could ease up off the brakes here a little bit. And then, but you do want it to be on an incline. You want it to go up and up and up. But it is tricky, and it's because the experience of writing it takes so much time. The experience of reading it takes so little time. It is difficult to know, are these beats tense? Are these beats lagging? It's very hard, and it's a team sport for a reason because it takes more than one
sport. Yeah. Well, one of the crumbs that you leave for the reader is when they go on this camping trip with their friends, and one of the friends asks Miles a question that Lenny can't hear, and Miles says yes. And then later he says yes when Lenny asks him if he has feelings for her. What was the question? Was there a question? I'm dying to know. Was there a real question, or was this just...
She says, this is such a spoiler, but all right, here we go. She says, close your ears if you don't want a spoiler.
Close your ears.
You've thought about kissing me before that moment just now, I mean? He goes still. It doesn't matter that there's 8 feet of free fall between us. My blood is racing like he's inches away and leaning in. Yes. My hands in my coat pockets reflexively tighten. That single word instantly reminds me of sitting around the campfire, Jericho whispering a mystery question to Miles, his one-word answer, clear and concise and certain, and now he's handing me that same yes. So it's not a literal interpretation of that moment because it would be weird if Jericho were like, do you want to kiss Lenny? You know what I mean? Like that's probably not the question he asked, but what I was trying to reinforce there is that any question to Miles about like, do you want her? Do you love her? Are you into her? Do you want to be with her? Are you going to support her? Are you going to be there for her? Any type of question like that, the answer is just going to be like in all caps, yes, period. Yeah. No gray area is kind of the vibe I was going for with that. It doesn't matter what the question is. He has no gray areas for her.
I love that. And I think that was what I took away. I was just wondering if maybe there was
a real one. Yeah.
Great question. Speaking of wanting more information about these two, you are getting a lot of requests for an epilogue. I saw one as recently as 10 minutes ago, 26 minutes ago. Are we going to get more Miles and Lenny? Or are we putting them away for now?
I know this is, I hesitate to say this, like, because I do think it closes the door. But I don't write weddings and I don't write epilogues.
Okay. No weddings and no epilogues.
They
Tell
might
me
get
more.
married, but we're not going to see the wedding. For me, I never want to write something that isn't forwarding character development. And for me, the characters have been developed by the end of this book.
Mm-hmm.
They're done.
Yeah.
And also specifically for Promise Me Sunshine, we get such a microscopic view of this terribly painful part of her life. It walks the line of voyeuristic. And for me, when I finished writing the book, I got to the last scene, I thought to myself, okay, and now she gets to have her own life back with Miles. She's with Miles now. She's not with me anymore. We don't get the information. The trade-off for her having a good life now in the future is that we don't get to see it happen. But I felt like I was sending her off to college or something like that.
Yeah.
That being said, so Ready or Not is first, Promise Me Sunshine second. My third book in this, it's not a series, but my third book in this sort of universe is called No Matter What. It's out this time next year. And then there's a fourth book in that. And then it's done. All four of these books are connected by a very thin thread, which is that Ethan from Ready or Not is in all four of them. So,
oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So he's Miles's friend.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah. I haven't written the fourth one yet. Maybe we get a glimpse, maybe we get an Easter egg or something like that. But I have to break some hearts here. We're never going to get an epilogue. We're never going to get a wedding.
Hey, I'm okay with that. I think I love an epilogue. I'm a romance reader, but I do think sometimes they can be a little bit separate from the rest of the book, and they are a little bit more contrived and a little bit too pretty of a bow. And I think I completely understand why you would leave it exactly where it is. What was the process of writing? Was the process of writing this book the same for you as writing your previous books? Do you sit down and say, okay, I have a deadline. I'm going to write this in 6 months. Does it come out in spurts? What does your writing process really look like?
I write every day or almost every day, whether I'm on deadline or not. If I'm not on deadline, I'm not writing a romance. I'm writing something else. So sometimes that's poetry. Sometimes that's my newsletter. Sometimes that's essays. Sometimes that's ideas for future projects, that kind of thing. When I'm on deadline, I'm not writing anything else. I'm just writing my book. I write every morning. Usually by about 9 a.m., I'm done writing for the day.
Wow. What time do you wake up?
As early as 4, depending on how much.
Early as 4.
Yeah.
Because you're writing, is that because your writing is really the best in the morning? Like you're the most inspired? Once
I start getting interrupted, I can see things starting to unravel. I lose some of my steam, that kind of thing. And my kids are up at like anywhere between 6:30 and 7:30 and they need me, or even if they're, even if I'm like, go ask dad, I still have to stop writing to be like, go ask dad. And that's an interruption too, So I do try to get a lot done before they're up. I also write after they go to bed. So especially if I'm on deadline, you'll often find me writing anytime from like 7 to midnight, that kind of thing. There's something kind of romantic and beyond the veil about pre-sunrise, post-sunset writing for me that kind of puts me in the mood, I guess. It's like lighting a candle or something for your 100%. Bath, that sort of thing.
We'll be right back to I Just Have to Say with Laura Max after a quick word from our sponsor for today's episode, Styled by ALV here in Aspen, Colorado. Are you planning a celebration or event in Aspen? Whether it's a bridal or baby shower, a corporate event, or just a special gathering with friends, Styled by ALV is your go-to for creating an occasion to remember. Let me tell you, there is no swag I wouldn't ask Styled by ALV to make for me. Her designs are so creative. We're talking custom logos and taglines on merch for your event that will actually make you laugh. And best of all, they're items you'll actually want to use and wear long after the event is over. Your guests will take home the stuff that you give them after your big event, and they will wear it and use it. Can you imagine? Styled by ALV is all about custom merchandise, styled events, and tablescapes that add a personalized touch to any gathering. From perfectly branded party favors to stunning table settings that wow your guests, she knows how to elevate your event from memorable to unforgettable for style as high as the Rocky Mountains. If you're ready to make your next celebration in Aspen as stylish and unique as it deserves to be, visit styledbyalv.com or check her out on Instagram at styledbyalv. Trust me, your guests will be talking about it for years to come. And now back to our guest. I often feel like my best in my terms of my work day, like my best work is done before 9. So I can completely understand that. And I feel like my best writing that I've ever done has also been before that time. How long does it usually take you? Like how many days, weeks, years does it take you to write one of your books?
So to get the first draft down, I usually can do it in about a month, sometimes less, because I can write anywhere when I'm really generating and really flying. I can write anywhere between 5 and 10,000 words a day. And the books are usually between 100,000 and 110,000 when I turn them in. Sometimes they are 128,000, and that's a big problem.
That's incredible. That's insane.
Yeah. But that's the first draft. Then drafting takes so much longer for me than generating, because my editor, who is absolutely brilliant, will, using her intellect and sweet, kind heart, will absolutely tear the book into like bloody pieces. And then I get it back and I have to spend like 4 to 7 weeks like laying on my couch like this, like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then somewhere around the end of that, I like my head pops up and I'm like, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll do what she said. That's a great idea.
That's a great idea. I can do it. Yeah. I love that.
That is part of my editing process, is the like, feeling like the manuscript is bleeding to death and then slowly coming around to being like, I see exactly what she's saying and here's how I could do it. I can't do it the way, like literally what she was saying, but here's the spirit of it and I can do it in this voice and I can move this chapter here and that sort of thing. And then I turn it back to her and then the same thing happens again, usually on a smaller scale at this point. But so it's hard to say, like, but the whole thing takes a long time. The whole thing takes at least a year. And depending on how many drafts I have to do, it can take much longer than that.
That's incredible. What I hear too is, I think a lot of people can imagine waking up and doing a job, doing the same job every day, but writing tends to be something that we associate with having inspiration or not having writer's block. Obviously you are going to have days where you're feeling maybe more blocked than other days, or maybe you don't. How do you show up to write every single day? Because I think it's difficult to show up for something creative every single day. Sometimes we don't feel like we can, but you do. So what are you doing that we need to know about?
Well, on days that I am going to be generatively writing, particularly for a novel, I literally do not look at my phone or email. So what I've told myself is, this means this. If I look at my phone or email, then my day of writing is over. That's the truth. I can't check IG for a second. I can't even check the news. I can technically go back and like get back in there and keep writing, but what is at stake is the rest of the day of writing. So that's also part of why I write really early in the morning, because if you haven't checked your phone by 9 a.m., that's not a big deal. If you haven't checked your phone by 6 p.m., with kids, it's literally impossible. You can't do that.
Yes.
You could miss something big. Yeah. So I would say that's the biggest thing, but also generally for me, if I'm feeling a lot of writer's block, it almost always ends up that it's not the right project for me. I didn't feel any writer's block at any point for Promise Me Sunshine or Ready or Not. The only time that it gets a little bit trickier is, so I don't write linearly for the most part. I write whatever. Today I sit down and I say, well, what do I want to write today? What do I want to see them do today?
Yeah.
And so I get a spark from that. And so the writer's block isn't in the room because I am writing toward a spark. Towards the end, especially of the first draft, the book has to makes sense.
Yeah, it has to make sense, of course.
I have to go back through and like, piece all this connective tissue together. Those are the times when sometimes I'm like, okay, they have to ride the train here. How do I make that interesting? Those are the sorts of things that sometimes I'm not, my fingers aren't flowing. I'm sitting there. I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? But that's about as close as I got to writer's block with Promise Me Sunshine in particular.
I'm sitting here listening to this and I'm like, wow, she must have really always known that this was what she wanted to do. Have you always wanted to be a writer?
Yes and no, just because I denied myself for a long time. I got like 5/6 of the way through an econ major in college.
Oh, wow. Oh my God. That's a totally different direction. You were like, I get that. Yeah. Okay. So you were trying that.
It just didn't make sense. Like, I think I just thought all of my heroes always have been authors, but I just thought, look, you're not going to write the next great American novel. You're not going to be able to support yourself. Like, let's do something more realistic. And so I studied econ, which is like not realistic either. Like, not a lot of economists like out here, it just didn't make sense either. And I was hating it. And actually the parts that I was really loving were when I would have to write a big paper for it.
Yeah.
So it was like, even research papers were feeding me more than the topic. I wasn't going to be able to graduate on time. I had been taking creative writing classes like little by little, just because they were my joy. So whenever I had like an elective that I could fit in, that's what I would take. So I actually had a lot of credits lined up. And to graduate on time, I was going to have to take 24 credits for 3 semesters in a row. And I would have to get a professor on my side who would like help guide me through that. It was going to be a big thing. I went to this creative writing professor and he'd been with me the whole time. And I was like, please, like, I've realized late, but I want to be a writer. Like, I got to do it. And he was like, I can't do it. Like, I can't fit you into my schedule. So I was walking out like, okay, I'm going to have to figure out how to pay for another year of college. Like, let's just do it. Like, all right, I really want to be a writer. And I'm like almost out of the building. And he was like an older man, like 75 years old. And he came running around down the hallway and he grabbed me and he was like, let's do it. And so he like changed his mind, rearranged his whole schedules. And this moment like shined down on me where I was like, I realized the risk it would be to become a writer. I realized that it wouldn't just be my own risk, that other people were going to have to potentially keep me afloat at times if I couldn't pay the bills, that sort of thing. I realized that it was not how hard I was going to have to work, how committed I would have to be able to survive this way. And I'm really grateful for that path because it's a work ethic that's never left me. And it's a lesson that's never left me, for sure.
Yeah. Wow. Well, you clearly have a very strong work ethic to be waking up at 4 a.m. and writing every day. I mean, that's amazing. I was reading your acknowledgments in the end. And you say something along the lines of, I am completely professionally fulfilled. That's one of the lines. And you're a mother of young children. So, I mean, your children are the same, almost the same ages as mine. And I read it and I immediately thought, okay, I'm turning that into an affirmation that I'm going to say every day. I am completely professionally fulfilled. I've been saying it every day. And I've got to tell you, I feel a lot more professionally fulfilled than I did. And what I just was in awe. I'm reading it and I was like, oh, a lot of the time, the block between being completely professionally fulfilled and not is this idea that I am a parent of young children. And so I'll feel that way later. Mm-hmm. And there's validity to that. I mean, there are a few things that are more challenging than they would be otherwise, but it doesn't have to be that way. And I've always known that. I mean, I've always known like, it doesn't have to be that way. And I read that line and I thought, oh my God. And I've been saying it and I've been feeling it more in my bones. And I just think that is the greatest thing that you could ever feel, is to be able to say that while you're raising kids, while you're doing. And so you get to do this thing that you love like every single day. And I think I could feel that when I was reading your acknowledgments. I could feel that joy.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of it for me is I think about what my day-to-day looks like. I guess what we're talking about is like presence, it's part of being professionally fulfilled is simply that I can support myself through writing. I'd love to continue growing my readership. I definitely want to sign more contracts in the future for other books. I have all of these ideas, but instead of looking at those things and being like, okay, so that means I'm not there yet. Like, where am I? And where I am right now is like literally like, if you could have told 8-year-old me that I would be this, like that I went on a book tour last month, like that is it. I did it. I hit the marks that
you went on a book tour.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think I would be a much less happy person, and I would be seriously missing something if I wasn't like, it's okay to be professionally fulfilled and still have ambition for growth. You can be both at the same time. You don't have to be like, I'm not there yet, because I am. I'm truly there. I was able to write this morning, spend time with my children. I was out on my front porch garden for the rest of the morning, and now I'm here with you. That's there. I'm living it right now. Like, that's
I love that. And that was what I got from what you said. I think that in the world that we live in, especially with like Instagram culture and social media and this constant comparison and seeing what other people are doing, we're wired to want more. And that's not a bad thing, but it also reminds me of this idea that the lives that we're in now are the ones that we wanted 10 years ago. And to stop and to really take that in, to say something like, I am completely professionally fulfilled and I want more book contracts and I want to sell more books. Like,
totally.
Both of them can exist at the same time, because I think if they don't, you miss that. You miss like, wait a second, I'm doing this thing. I mean, I was 19, 20 years old. I was living in London and I was working a minimum wage job, and I was eating ginger snaps and an orange for breakfast every night because that was all I could afford.
Wow.
And I went to the grocery store yesterday and I put everything in my cart that I needed and probably more that I didn't need. And I didn't really think twice about it. And I was checking out of the grocery store and it was just like so expensive. Like, groceries are really expensive right now. Yeah. But I thought, my God, like, that girl would be just freaking out. Like, if she knew that I got to do this.
Totally.
Like, how cool is this? Mm-hmm. This is just an ordinary moment, but like, I get to do this. Like, this is really annoying in some ways, but I get to do this.
Right. Totally. And I think discontent isn't dispelled by getting the thing you're wishing for. Like, discontent, because then you get the thing you wish for. And if your habit is discontent, then the discontent travels with you. And then it's just, it's more. You always need something else to fill. So I do try to break that pattern, because life is good for me, and my immediate family are healthy and happy, and we've had a lot of ups and downs, and I'm here just really trying to appreciate like the actual goodness.
Enjoy this moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's an incredible moment for you. And I am going to wrap up by talking a little bit more about the Bookstagram phenomenon that is how I found you. And I'm so curious. I mean, I read all of these books where there's like all of this fan art on Instagram. And what is it like to write something and then see somebody else create the characters, draw the characters, paint the characters, make a video about the characters, that you spent, like a year with these or longer with these characters coming up with them. Now they're their own thing. They've been given their own life. They're part of other people's story. What does it feel like to look at that and to see that?
The only thing I can compare it to is having kids, where like when your kid is your baby, they're just like, they're yours. They're nothing. It's nothing else. They're yours. But then every step of independence that they take, you realize more and more they're their own. They belong to the world. They belong to their friends. They belong to their school, their community, their skills, their interests. Like I forget the famous person who said it, but like every moment of parenting is preparing them to leave you. That sort of thing, because that's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
I had my time where Lenny and Miles were just mine, and it was one of the most special parts of my professional or personal life. Honestly, this book helped me understand grief and my own grief. And I am so grateful to have those characters and to the experience. And then even when it was an advanced review copy, I saw the very first time somebody tagged me. I didn't even realize it was out as an advanced review copy. And then somebody tagged me and it was a review. And I realized, oh, they're not mine anymore. They're the readers. And the truth is, the readers will understand this book better than I can because they are having more conversations about it. They're reading it more than I am. They're doing things like creating art around it. And I consider my role in it as like a jumping off point for the community that's supposed to have it,
Yeah.
And so it's amazing to me. It's stunning. It blows me away. It makes me so happy when people tag me and stuff because it means that they want me to be involved in it. But I am also like, you're doing great, sweetie. I think it's a Mom Kardashian, like, you're doing great, sweetie. That's me. But like, I'm not really involved. I'm just like, I'm barely there, but that's the way it's supposed to be. And I love that Bookstagram gives books this really robust life. These books just get to live through.
They get to live. They have, so many different interpretations.
Absolutely. And it's so healthy. And it's really a dream. To have your book be discussed by people is, I think, any author's ambition. To be able to then see it, I get to be a fly on the wall. It's pretty cool.
I love that. So, well, you're a romance author. You're also a romance reader. What are you reading? Do you have any favorite books or favorite modern romance authors that we need to know about?
Totally. Well, I just finished the most recent B.K. Borison, First Time Caller.
I just read that before I read Promise Me Sunshine.
Oh, right.
That was the book I read before. Yes.
I love her. I think she's fantastic. She's wonderful. I just started the advanced review copy of Tara DeWitt's Left of Forever. Very excited about that. It's really, really good. All-time favorites are, I'm looking at my shelf right now, Beverly Jenkins, Rebecca Weatherspoon, Evie Dunmore, Sonali Dave, Joanna Shoup. And I'm just looking at everybody. Oh, Carrie Winfrey. Carrie Winfrey is so good.
I haven't read any of these authors. I'm going to go back and listen to this and take notes.
They run the gamut in terms of what they're presenting and what style or what genre, subgenre they are. But I have been reading romance since I was 14 years old, and my tastes have changed. And it's been a constant companion to me. And I'm just so glad that it is finally like getting the shine it deserves.
It is getting the shine it deserves. It's just amazing. It's really wonderful. And I love that you chose to write and that you've given us these incredible stories. So I have certain books I read and I'm like, oh, I can see the movie. So I definitely felt that way about this book. Is that a dream of yours? Could you imagine like one of your books becoming a movie one day?
Yeah, totally. Well, sort of not. So I don't think that plot is a strong suit of mine, although my books do have plot. But when I see a script for a movie, I do read scripts for movies and I'm like, wow, there's so many things happening in this. And how do you translate this sort of tension to a film, that sort of thing. But anyways, my editor is always like, stop saying that. You're putting it into the world and it's not, and she's right. I think my books would make great movies.
When I was reading Promise Me Sunshine, there were just so many scenes particularly the Staten Island ferry, that dinner with the grappa. I was like, oh my God, I have to see this. I have to see this, the camping trip, the apartments. I want to know what they really look like. Oh
yeah, I would love it. I would die. I would love to see any of my books as a movie, but this one in particular, I feel like there's a lot of really snappy dialogue that could translate pretty well.
There really is. Okay, so my final question for you is that obviously you have pursued a career that is thought of as a long shot and you have been successful at it thus far. For anyone who wants to do what you do, what is your advice for them?
Again, clear time where you're not on your phone or cell phone, or computer or internet or anything. Don't be scared of boredom. If you're really bored, and just looking at a blinking cursor or your blank page, you're very close to writing something. If you're very bored, it's like just almost there.
Oh, I love that.
Don't ask people for their honest opinion unless you want it. If you want affirmation, ask for affirmation from someone, because if you ask for their honest opinion, assuming they're only going to give you affirmation, they're going to give you edits. So if you don't want edits,
you better want what you're asking for.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. Because it can kill a piece of writing dead if you think you're only going to get compliments, and then someone's like, well, cut out the first chapter and it'll be great.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? It can really hurt. Yes. So, and literally nobody doesn't get rejections. If you are getting rejections, it means you're doing it right, because you're putting yourself into the universe, into the conversation, you're trying. And so feel disappointed. I'm not saying don't feel disappointed, but when you get a rejection, ask yourself, what can I learn from this particular rejection? Did I shoot my shot with an agent who's not accepting this version of romance? Like if this isn't their thing, then, you learn that lesson, you do your research better the next time, that kind of thing.
Well, then this is my last question, part B. Would that be the same advice that you would give to someone when they're reading negative feedback about something that they've already written? That
always hurts. I would say, so if the negative feedback is coming anonymously, for instance, if you post it online and then don't read that. Don't read that. You need to know the person and respect their opinion to start out with, for it to be useful to you. So start there. Something that hurts your feelings isn't necessarily negative. I'll say that too.
Interesting. Something that hurts your feelings isn't necessarily negative. It's just not what you wanted to hear.
In this context. Yeah.
Okay.
When I first started writing, I was a ghostwriter, and I loved looking at the 1-star reviews, because they would be so hilariously honest. And, it's like the star doesn't even really correlate. It would be like, this character has a bias against people with allergies, 1 star. And then I'd be like,
oh my God, no way.
Dang, like that joke didn't land. That joke about allergies didn't land. Why wasn't it funny? Wasn't sharp enough? Like, is it mean? That sort of thing. I don't actually have people with allergies myself, but that sort of thing. So I did mine for that. But for the most part, know yourself, know what you're actually asking for in terms of feedback. And when something hurts your feelings, put it in a drawer and see if you can come back 5 months later and read it again and see if there is something to it that, if you can see through the hurt to the thing that the person was actually trying to say, you'll gain a lot, most likely.
I love that. That is such good advice just for anyone living in the world that we live in. So I'm so thankful to you. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Cara. It was such an honor having you, and I cannot wait to read your next book. I'm so glad you're already writing one.
Well, thank you for having me. This was really lovely.
Everyone, this has been Cara Bastone. You can read Promise Me Sunshine on Kindle, which is my favorite way to read it, paperback, any way you choose, listen to the audiobook, but just find a way to read it because it's fantastic. And any of her other many books, one of which I'm in the middle of right now, which is Ready or Not. Cara, thank you for coming on, and I will look forward to joining you all again next time.